people can't control you, they'll do this instead. Who's really holding the reins of your life? Are you truly free, or are you simply reacting the way others have trained you to? Have you ever noticed how people's attitudes shift the moment you stop being easy to control? The smiles fade. The praise disappears. Suddenly, there are whispers behind your back, passive-aggressive remarks, even rumors creeping in from nowhere. What? Because you stopped playing the role they wrote for you. And when they can't control you directly, they don't just walk away, they adapt. The strategy shifts. They guilt trip you, twist your words, subtly question your character, hoping you'll second-guess your decisions. You think you're just living your life, but behind the curtain, someone is quietly pulling strings, trying to lure you back into their web. But here's what Stoic philosophy teaches us. True power isn't the ability to control others, it's the strength to never be controlled. So let me ask you again, are you truly free? Or are you still dancing to someone else's tune without realizing it? Stay with me until the very end, because the final tactic they'll use is the most dangerous one of all. And knowing it might be the key to reclaiming your inner freedom, once and for all. 1. When control fails, manipulation begins. Some people crave control like oxygen. They want to shape your thoughts, dictate your choices, and mold your behavior to serve their needs. But what happens when you become unshakable? When you stop yielding? When you no longer flinch under pressure or bend to guilt? They don't give up. They just get smarter. The game changes, and it gets quieter, sneakier, more psychological. They'll whisper guilt into your ear. After all I've done for you, this is how you repay me? They'll flatter you into submission. You're the only one who can help me. I don't know what I'd do without you. And when that doesn't work, they'll create a sense of urgency or cast themselves as the victim, hoping to catch you in a net of emotional obligation. But Stoicism reminds us of a vital truth. The one who has mastered himself is mightier than the one who controls others. That's the difference between appearing strong and actually being strong. You see, manipulators don't thrive on logic. They feed on your emotional reaction. Guilt, fear, doubt, these are the levers they pull. The more you respond, the deeper you sink into their framework. It's like a mental chessboard, and every move they make is calculated to provoke a reaction. But here's the Stoic secret. You win the game by refusing to play. I once dealt with someone who always seemed to twist the facts. One day they asked me for something I wasn't comfortable with. I declined politely. They sighed, looked down, and said, "Wow, I thought we were closer than that." Instantly, I felt it, the guilt, that creeping sense that maybe I was being too harsh. But I paused, took a breath, and simply replied, "I know what you're doing." That moment changed everything. They blinked, their mask cracked, and that was the last time they tried to use that tactic on me. Because manipulation only works when you don't see it. And the moment you see it clearly, it loses its grip. So how do you respond when people try to manipulate you? 1. Recognize the tactic. Ask yourself, is this a request, or is it pressure in disguise? 2. Remain grounded. The more emotionally neutral you stay, the less control they have. 3. Say no without guilt. You don't owe anyone an explanation for honoring your boundaries. In the end, you don't need to justify your decisions. You don't have to play defense. Because your peace, your self-command, is your real power. And once you reclaim that, no manipulator stands a chance. 2. When they can't control you, they attack your name. When direct control fails, the whispers begin. They won't confront you face to face. Instead, they work in the shadows, crafting false narratives, twisting your words, and sowing seeds of doubt in the minds of those around you. What? Because when they can't manipulate you, they try to manipulate how others see you. It's not about truth, it's about control. Their weapon? Reputation warfare. But here's what most never realize. Lies are loud because truth stands silent. And that silence, if rooted in strength, becomes your greatest power. The Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius once wrote, If you are unaffected by what is said, you have already won. Think of it like mud. When someone flings mud at you, your first instinct may be to wipe it off, to shout, "That's not true." But the more you fight it, the more covered you become. The wiser response? Stand still. Let the mud dry. Then dust it off, effortlessly. I remember when someone spread a rumor about me that was both personal and deeply inaccurate. My instinct was to fight back, to prove them wrong, to defend my name. But I chose stillness instead. I didn't post about it. I didn't call anyone to plead my case. I just lived, louder than any lie ever could. And over time, something beautiful happened. People began to see the truth not because I forced them to, but because it revealed itself. Because that's the thing about lies. They require constant maintenance. But the truth? The truth is self-sustaining. So how do you deal with people who weaponize gossip? 1. Do not engage. Every time you respond, you feed the fire. 2. Let your character speak. In time, who you are will always outshine what they say. 3. Remember who the lie really reveals. A false accusation says far more about the accuser than the accused. At the end of the day, falsehoods only gain power if you let them take root in your soul. But when you remain grounded in your principles, like a deeply rooted oak during a storm, the wind eventually passes and the mud washes away. You walk away clean. Because your silence, when it comes from strength, becomes a roar the world cannot ignore. 3. When they can't win, they pretend to be wounded. When control fails and lies fall flat, there's one card left in the manipulator's deck. They make themselves the victim. It's subtle, sometimes even convincing. You stand up for yourself and suddenly you're the villain. They twist your boundary into betrayal. Your silence becomes cruelty. Your clarity becomes an attack. And while you're still catching your breath, they've already gathered an audience, playing the role of the wounded soul. But let's call it what it is: emotional manipulation in disguise. They're not seeking justice. They're seeking sympathy. Not to heal, but to harm, quietly, passively, with applause. Epictetus, the great Stoic teacher, warned us of this centuries ago. A wise man does not allow others to dictate his emotions. And that's exactly what this tactic tries to do: provoke an emotional reaction from you, to pull you back into the performance. The moment you step onto their stage, the audience forgets who lit the fire. All they see is you defending yourself, and them in tears. It's a trap. I remember someone who did this often. Whenever I calmly asserted a boundary, they would crumble theatrically. "I can't believe you do this to me," they'd whisper to others, painting me as heartless. At first, I tried to explain. I defended my integrity. But eventually I saw the pattern, and I stopped playing the part they wrote for me. I let them act, but I refused to be cast as their villain. And something powerful happened. The more I stood firm in silence, the more the audience saw the truth for themselves. Because nothing exposes a false victim faster than the absence of a real villain. So how do you deal with this? 1. Don't engage. Arguing only gives the illusion that you're guilty. 2. Let time do the work. Their script falls apart when you refuse to read your lines. 3. Protect your energy. You are not responsible for how others spin your truth. At the end of the day, playing the victim is a game that only works when it gets a reaction. But if you stay grounded, composed, and unwavering, their performance collapses under the weight of its own lies. And you? You walk away not just with your peace, but with your power fully intact. 4. Divide to conquer, the isolation tactic. When manipulation fails, when rumors fade, when guilt no longer works, they turn to a darker strategy: isolation. Not physical isolation, but emotional exile. They work behind closed doors. They plant quiet doubts. They twist your words when you're not around. And slowly, they begin pulling people away from you. Why? Because as long as you're connected, to truth, to friends, to inner strength, you're a threat. So their goal becomes simple: cut you off. make you feel uncertain, make you wonder who you can trust. And once you're alone, once the circle has shrunk, that's when you're easiest to control again. This tactic isn't new. It's ancient. Predators in the wild don't attack the herd. They isolate the weakest member. Alone, confused, disoriented, and that's when they strike. And manipulators? They're no different. But Stoic wisdom has long held the answer. Seneca once said, "Associate only with those who make you better. Avoid those who would pull you down." The truth is, people who try to isolate you fear your independence. They hate that you can stand on your own. They can't control a mind that's rooted in clarity and surrounded by strong, conscious allies. I've seen it firsthand. Someone once began quietly turning people against me. Nothing dramatic, just small, carefully placed seeds. I'm not sure you can really trust them. I heard they've changed. At first, I felt the pull, the instinct to confront, to defend, to fix. But then I realized that's what they wanted. Instead, I chose silence. I focused on the people who truly knew me. I deepened the relationships that were built on truth, not gossip. And here's what happened. Over time, the fog lifted. The lies dissolved. The people who mattered stayed. And the rest? They were never mine to lose. So how do you protect yourself from this tactic? 1. Stay composed. Emotional reactions only give them more to work with. 2. Strengthen your real connections. Truth doesn't need to shout, it just needs to be consistent. 3. Let them go. If someone is easily turned against you, their loyalty was never rooted in truth. At the end of the day, the people who fear your freedom will always try to isolate you. But your job is not to chase them or explain yourself into exhaustion. Your job is to stay rooted, stay real, and stay surrounded by those who love your light, not those who are threatened by it. Because real relationships don't break from someone else's lies. They only break when the foundation wasn't solid to begin with. 5. They don't break you, they undermine you. Not all attacks are loud. Sometimes the most dangerous strategy is whispered, quiet doubts slipped into your mind when you're not looking. Not through open confrontation, but through subtle erosion. When people can't control you directly, they go for something more vital. Your confidence. Not by calling you wrong, but by making you question whether you're right. They say, "Are you sure this is the right decision? That seems risky. I mean, I guess it could work. Maybe." And slowly, brick by brick, they chip away at your inner foundation, not to help you but to weaken you. Because a self-doubting mind is easier to steer. Let's be clear. This isn't constructive criticism. This is psychological sabotage wrapped in concern. They want you to hesitate, to second guess, to seek their approval. Because the more you need validation, the less you trust yourself, and the easier it is for them to lead you somewhere you never meant to go. But here's where Stoicism stands tall. Epictetus once said, "A person's worth is not measured by the approval of others." True confidence isn't loud. It's not arrogant. It's quiet, steady, rooted in reason. It doesn't explain itself to win agreement. It acts with clarity and lets results speak. Imagine your confidence is a bridge, solid, strong. But someone walks up and says, "Are you sure this will hold?" At first you ignore it, but then they repeat it again and again. Soon your steps become hesitant, not because the bridge is broken, but because they made you doubt it. That's the tactic. And the cure? Keep walking. I've lived this too. There was a time someone questioned nearly every decision I made. Always with a smile. Always with concern. And I kept explaining, justifying, proving, until one day I stopped and simply said, "Yes, I'm sure." That moment? Silence. Because confidence doesn't need permission, and it never needs to argue. So how do you protect your inner compass? 1. Trust yourself. If your decision comes from clarity, don't let noise distract you. 2. Stop over-explaining. The more you defend yourself, the more they'll poke. 3. Recognize the difference between guidance and control. Real support empowers, it doesn't chip away. At the end of the day, confidence isn't about never being questioned. It's about not needing approval to stay the course. People may test you, challenge you, even mock your certainty, but the only power they have is the power you hand them through doubt. So walk that bridge. Stand tall in your knowing. Because when your roots are deep, no wind, not even whispers, can shake you. 6. When they can't control your mind, they try to hijack your emotions. When logic doesn't work, when guilt no longer binds you, when rumors fail to break you, they turn to one final strategy: emotional provocation. This is when they stop trying to persuade and start trying to poke. Insults dressed as jokes, sarcasm sharpened like daggers, passive-aggressive remarks carefully crafted to get under your skin. But understand this, it's not about the words, it's about your reaction. Because if they can make you explode, they win. Suddenly you look like the irrational one. They walk away clean, the reasonable party who simply didn't deserve your anger. It's a trap designed to discredit your power by making you misuse it. Marcus Aurelius, the warrior philosopher emperor, once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." And that's the key. Not to outshout, out-insult, or out-argue, but to refuse to become them. Imagine your emotions as a steady flame. Their words? What? The more you react, the more the fire blazes, out of control. But if you remain calm, still, unshaken, the wind has nothing to feed. The flame remains, but it no longer consumes. I once had someone who specialized in provocation. Every conversation was laced with jabs. "Well, you wouldn't understand, this takes real experience." Or, "You always think you're right, don't you?" At first I take the bait, argue, defend, until one day I simply said, "Interesting perspective." Then I went quiet. Their face dropped. What? Because the reaction they craved, the emotional chaos, never came. That's when I understood. Calm is a weapon. Not weakness, but the ultimate show of strength. So how do you deal with emotional provokers? 1. Recognize the pattern. Ask yourself, is this a real conversation or just bait? 2. Control your response. Take a breath. Pause. Don't swing just because they threw a punch. 3. Walk away when needed. Not all battles are worth fighting. Some are best won through silence. At the end of the day, your emotions belong to you. Not them. Not their insults. Not their chaos. And the moment you refuse to be triggered, the moment you stay still while they try to light a fire, is the moment they lose all control. Because in every room, the strongest person isn't the loudest. It's the one who cannot be shaken. 7. When they can't beat you, they try to become you. There comes a point when their games stop working. They can't guilt you. They can't manipulate you. They can't provoke you or make you crumble under pressure. So they choose a different route: imitation. At first, it seems flattering. They start picking up your habits, echoing your ideas, even mirroring your language. But then it becomes clear, they're not trying to compete with you anymore. They're trying to become you. Because if they can't destroy what makes you powerful, they'll try to absorb it. But here's what they don't understand. Authenticity cannot be copied. It's not in the moves you make, it's in the reason you make them. Seneca once said, "Character, not imitation, defines a person." Someone can mirror your actions, your path, even your image, but they will always be one step behind. What? Because they're following a light they don't carry. And a shadow, no matter how closely it clings, cannot create its own glow. I remember someone who copied nearly everything I did. The books I read, the work I shared, even my personal rituals. At first, it frustrated me, like something sacred was being stolen. But then I noticed something. The more I evolved, the more they stumbled. Because while I was growing from the inside, they were only chasing appearances. One day I shifted gears, tried something radically different, and they couldn't follow. That's when I realized, you can't fake the source. So how do you deal with people who copy you? 1. Stop worrying about them. The fact that they're imitating you means they're already behind. 2. Keep evolving. The faster you grow, the harder it is for them to keep up. 3. Recognize what it means. Imitation isn't admiration. It's insecurity wearing a mask. At the end of the day, your originality is your edge. No one can replicate your experience, your insight, or your inner fire. So let them copy. Let them chase. Let them play dress up with your greatness. Because while they're busy pretending to be you, you're already becoming something greater. 8. When they can't control your rise, they wait for your fall. Not everyone who claps is cheering. Some people aren't celebrating your success. They're counting the steps until you trip. They smile. They nod. They say, "I'm happy for you." But behind the mask, they're waiting, not for your breakthrough, but for your breakdown. Because your rise challenges their comfort. Your growth highlights their stagnation. And if they can't stop you, they quietly hope the world will. Here's the truth. Some people don't want to see you fail because they hate you. They want to see you fail because it makes them feel better about not trying. But this is where Stoic philosophy slices through the illusion. Epictetus once said, "Do not waste energy on those who hope for your downfall. Focus only on your growth." Because here's what happens when you live with purpose. You expose those who don't. And that exposure creates discomfort. A mirror they can't look into without seeing what they've avoided in themselves. I once knew someone like this. Always supportive, always around until the moment I stumbled. They were the first to say, "I told you it wouldn't be easy." Not with concern, but with satisfaction. As if they had been secretly waiting for that moment all along. That's when I understood. They weren't a supporter. They were a spectator. So I stopped explaining, stopped proving, and poured my energy back into the one thing that truly mattered, the next step forward. And that step became a stride. The stride became a journey. And soon their silence said more than their words ever did. So how do you handle those who wait in the shadows? 1. Recognize the signs. If someone disappears in your wins and reappears in your losses, believe the pattern. 2. Don't prove progress. Your success isn't a rebuttal. It's a declaration. 3. Let your actions speak. No revenge burns hotter than rising when they swore you'd fall. At the end of the day, you owe nothing to the ones who doubted you, except the sound of your footsteps as you walk right past them. Their silence? Let it echo behind you. Because nothing torments those waiting for your failure like the sound of you rising anyway. Now, as we wrap up this journey through the subtle, yet potent strategies people use when they can't control you, take a moment to reflect. You've learned the tactics they'll use: guilt, manipulation, lies, isolation, emotional provocation, all aimed at pulling you back into their grasp. But here's the real question. What will you do next? Will you continue to let others' tricks shape your path? Or will you stand firm, unshaken, and embrace the freedom that comes with mastering your mind, your emotions, and your choices? The true strength lies in your ability to remain unmoved by their games, to rise when they want you to fall, to walk your path not because others approve, but because it's the path you've chosen, rooted in your own values and guided by your own clarity. Now it's your turn. Take control of your narrative. Recognize manipulation and stop engaging with it. Stand firm in your truth even when they try to bend you. And most importantly, never let their doubts become your own. If you found this video helpful, please hit like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more powerful insights. Your support means everything and fuels me to continue creating content that empowers you to break free and lead with strength. Stay strong. Stay unshaken. And remember, your freedom begins when you stop letting others control you.